Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have quite the topic for today, and I hope you all are looking forward to it as much as I am. My name is Christina, and I am the moderator for today's session. So, firstly, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to welcome all of you to Insights Humanizing Innovation session with industry. And our topic for today is advertising dead? Yes, that really is our topic for today. So let's start, shall we? Today's topic is an interesting one because with the many new innovations and technologies in advertising, with a nice dose of pandemic panic, we're left with a sort of cloud of uncertainty in how to navigate in today's new world of advertising. I hope that today's talk will prove insightful as we've gathered some very experienced speakers to shed light on the situation and share with us their thoughts. So let me first start with introducing myself. Um, right, so my name is Miss Christina Ruslan. I am an academician, an independent filmmaker, and a stop motion animator. I'm also an alumni of MMU itself, class of 2015. My craft, if not teaching, is a multidisciplinary artist with work spanning indie film, advertising, theater, fashion, and fine art. So I have over 9 years of personal research and development within the field of stop motion animation, with my works consisting things spanning independent films, commercial work, advertisements, and educational content. Um, I have films that have screened both locally and internationally. And if I'm not doing films, I'm also doing educational content for things like MDEC, My Creative, MMU, and giving workshops at Aswara and other visiting universities. And right now, I'm currently loving teaching in MMU subjects from both the advertising design department and the animation department, as well as any subjects related to video production. So, yeah. Right. So let's get to know it's enough about me. Let's get to know our external speaker first. We are very fortunate to have with us today Mr. VJ Anand.
Hi everyone.
So, hi, Mr. Vijay. All right, so a little bit about Mr. Vijay. Of course, this is only a drop in the pool of his many accomplishments. So he was the former senior vice president of creative at Gojek, Indonesia's first decacon tech giant, and is now the regional head of creative and the managing partner of VaynerMedia APAC. So at Gojek, Vijay helped grow an internal creative team of from 10 people to a strong 120 team. And he headed up the creative, social, in app content and activation for the Indonesian Decacon. So he helped rebrand them in his last months at Gojek and created sonic branding sounds for the Indonesian giant. His last piece of work includes a music video with Richard Bryan that went viral and leading to a hire by Gary Vaynerchuk to help build VaynerMedia APAC. So VJ came into an agency of 4 people and helped grow it to an agency of 221. Quite impressive, very impressive actually. So VJ has run numerous global and regional campaigns for SK2, Google, Disney Plus, Subway, and several other brands. And his most recent global work involved conceptualizing and shooting a music video with John Legend for the SK2 brand. VJ was recently nominated for the Southeast Asian Creative Person of the Year award, and a quote that usually works in tandem with his name is he is your go-to guy if you want your brand to be the talk of the town. So very excited to hear all of the input from Mr. VJ coming up real soon. But right after that, we would like to also introduce our internal speaker, Miss Dr. Fauzan Mustafa. So Dr. Fauzan Mustafa is an academician, researcher, practicing designer, mainly in the area of communication design at the Faculty of Creative Multimedia, my colleague. And his area of research includes cultural heritage studies involving creation of new forms of culture reproduction in giving ways for exploration of culture, imagery, cultural interface, and experience. His works were exhibited locally and internationally, including Letheby Gallery from London, Maybank Art Gallery, Shah Alam Gallery, Rajab Bhat Institute, Bangkok, spanning all the way to City University of Hong Kong, Center of Research, Creation, Digital Media in Samwin University. So everything spanning from locally and internationally, it's all there. He's also won several design competitions, including those organized by Ministry of Organized Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Creative Content Industry Guild Malaysia in 2017, Ministry of Communications and Multimedia Malaysia in 2020, and in 2017 he obtained the MMU Special Award in conjunction with Multimedia University's 20th anniversary ceremony. So I'm very excited. And let's get started. I think we can get started with Mr. Vijay Anand first. Over to you, Mr. Vijay.
Quite cool. So yeah, I love the topic. I think this whole thing about is advertising dead is funny because I'm working in the advertising and the creative scene. So if it's dead, I'm jobless and I'm out of a job, and yeah, it's been tough for the whole advertising scene. But yeah, we'll go straight to my slide. The first slide is already saying celebrating the death of advertising, and before we get into the talk and stuff like that, and Ron, I think you can put the first slide up, right? Yeah, celebrating the death of advertising. And so, quite an interesting topic, and I won't take a lot of time, but I'll explain it through some of my work that I've done and the journey. But first, we'll start off with the journey in my career as well. So, I think I don't know if a lot of people know, but I used to be from MMU. I graduated from MMU, and if we move to the next slide, hi, my name is VJ, and I've had like 23 years or 22 years of being in the industry. I started off in advertising, and a lot of things you can also learn for those of you all who are going to graduate and getting into the industry, especially the advertising and marketing industry. It's something to also listen to the path of my career. So I studied in FCM. Yes, I graduated from there. I did media innovation. So I was supposed to go to advertising, but I didn't go to advertising. Um, and I started off as a web designer first. So for the first 5 6 years of my career, I was in digital agencies. I was designing. In fact, I designed Max's first ever corporate website in the year of 1999 or year 2000. So that's a long time ago, man. It was an early .com time where people were creating websites. First 5 years doing websites and stuff like that. Then I saw a lot of advertising commercials used to come to us as digital agency. Then I was like, wow, this TV commercial is kind of cool. I should do I can do this, right? So then I joined advertising. I was in different agencies from Euro RCG Hawas to Ogilvy to TBWA. My most favorite stint in my advertising journey was in TBWA Creative Juice, where I was doing all the Nando's stuff. So for like 5 years, I was doing like me and my team, we were doing like social media hijacks. Whenever something happened for Nando's, we would be on social media and say something funny about something political, about politicians, about anything that went in the news. We would make fun of it, and we got really famous for that. So after that, then I went to BBDO. Then after like 17 years of being like digital and advertising, then I was like, damn man, it feels like the same thing over and over again. So I wanted to try something different after winning all the awards and stuff like that as well. It just got repetitive at a point. And then Gojek, I used to give a lot of talks just like this across the region. And the CMO of Gojek got got a hold of me, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you speak to our founders, who was Nadim and Kevin?" So interesting. Had a long conversation with them, and they flew me down to Indonesia, and I was so shocked to see the how a tech company has how advanced Gojek was in Jakarta and Indonesia, and how much cool shit they were doing there. So I was quite excited. Joined a tech company, started the internal creative social media team and a content team there. And after 2 years of that, my last piece of work, as Christina introduced earlier, which I'll show later as well, made something with Rich Brian, did a music video, then got hired by Gary V, who's big uh, on social media and stuff like that. So right now I'm in Vayner Media doing that, right? Heading up creative. We're not an advertising agency. That would be the last thing we are. We're more like social media content, um, the agency for the now rather than advertising. So next slide. So is advertising really dead? Um, but first, before I even talk about that, right, let me show you all the advertising of yesterday. This was some of my too old work that I did during my stint at TBW and BBDO. It's films, and back then, it's fun coming up with films, coming up with advertising pieces or TV commercials for clients. That was the pinnacle of advertising back in the day. So we'll play the first one first. Let's play the first video, yeah.
Inilah kisah dua lelaki and their shared passion. Every morning, three-time Golden Chawan winner Uncle Selva does his core strengthening exercises while his apprentice, son of a fruit, carefully prepares for another day of teh tarik perfection. The Tuan Rumah, Ibrahim Zulkarnain, spent his younger life surrounded by tea.
1, 2, there.
And his adult life surrounded by teh tarik. He absolutely loves the stuff, and Uncle Selva's teh tarik is the best there is.
Sir?
He likes a cup with his morning papers.
Power.
Halfway down the stairs. And at breakfast right before he leaves for work.
Baru syok.
Setiap hari, rutin yang sama.
Hebat. Best gila.
Until
Sir,
Uncle, how cepat can you make a teh tarik?
cepat.
I nak throw a teh tarik party and I nak invite all my friends to share your magic. Malaysians kan suka teh tarik. But how? There's only one of you and stratos of them.
Lebih cepat.
Sure ke?
so Uncle Selva made himself a teh tarik and tried to
Senang,
figure it out.
Sedap, cepat.
Akhirnya,
Cuba try, sir.
This is excellent.
This is the result of years of hard work. Wisdom turun-temurun oleh mereka yang tertarik dengan teh tarik.
Oh, formula baru from Lipton.
Creamy, frothy, aromatic, exquisite. Jom P Kedai, we have a party to throw.
senang untuk dibuat. The Lipton 3-in-1 teh tarik was the perfect solution and the party was a runaway success. Not a drop was served cold or late. Uncle Selva shared his secret with all the guests and everyone lived and drank Lipton 3-in-1 teh tarik happily ever after.
A simple battery can help light up the dark. In today's world, where conventional batteries are quickly becoming
Yeah, sorry about that. You can play the second video. Or if you have
This is a story of how we hijack.
What if I told you I'll make all your wishes and fairy tales come true? What if I told you the birds sing a story that's only heard by you? What if I told you you could ride a rainbow or dance upon the moon? What if I told you the magic was real? Would you believe me? I bring a cloud down for you. I'll make the stars blink for you. Do you believe in magic? 'Cause it will set you free. Sometimes it's what you feel and not just what you see. Do 'cause it will set you free.
Films that my team and I have done in the past. And back then in advertising, man, getting to do a TV commercial, a film was like the pinnacle of our careers, right? Writing scripts and coming up with crazy ideas. But the truth is, if you move to the next slide, the truth is not many people nowadays really want to watch advertising, right? With the creation of like skip buttons and people paying for subscription to skip advertising and stuff like that, the last thing people want to watch is advertising, right? So what do people want to watch this day? I think you can move the slide to. I've already talked about one slide. The really again the whole thing about people don't want to watch advertising. People are paying for things to skip to stay away from advertising. Right? If you move to the next slide, what people want to watch these days are people want to watch content, things that you can see you yourself and a lot of us here are on TikTok every day just scrolling at random stuff. Nobody wants to watch advertising. People want to watch snackable content, things that are fun, and smart brands and smart creatives will embed their message in things that people want to watch, from TikTok videos to music videos to documentaries to shows on Disney Plus and Netflix. That's what people want to watch. So I'm going to play another example of how from my career of doing like TV commercials and films and stuff like that, it also changed along the way to do stuff that are a bit more different. So Burhan, if you can play the next video. Yeah.
This is a story of how we hijacked social media and ended up in a music video of Asia's hottest hip hop star. Meet Rich Brian. He's an Indonesian who's currently taking the US hip hop world by storm. Rich Brian has been in the States for the last 2 years working on his latest album. One dull evening, his tweet about how he missed Indonesian food caught our attention. Being a super app hailing from Indonesia that also delivered food, we did our boy a solid. Only problem? He was in New York! But in the spirit of our brand tagline, Pasti ada jalan, there is always a way, we were there in the US to grant his wish within 48 hours. This took the internet by storm. In Indonesia and around the world, other brands tried to jump into the conversation as they called panjat sosial.
Affairs Gojek yaitu Nila Marita membenarkan soal pengiriman makanan Indonesia untuk Rich Brian yang kini tinggal di New York.
And it was just the beginning. Brian then challenged us to stick his latest album on our app.
Can you guys do me a favor? I have an album called The Sailor that's gonna come out soon. Can you guys put it in the front page of your app?
No big deal. We gladly obliged with the banter. Here's the best part. As a reward for the gesture, Brian stuck us in his music video for his biggest single, 100 Degrees.
Keep my feet up on the dash. Gee golly, we just
That 3 seconds of a cameo was priceless. It got other brands dumbfounded. The media went wild. Even Gojek's top execs were speechless. It was the mark of a brand success that would echo forever in the halls of YouTube. In a span of 2 weeks, the global news coverage catapulted Gojek and Rich Brian across all channels, reaching people far and wide, providing Gojek an earned reach that was unheard of. The sneakiest hijack saw some impressive collaborations with Orbit Gear and Never Too Lavish. Even Agnes Monica came out to surprise our driver in LA. This just goes to show that collaborations like this happens with the right risk, timing, and some sheer luck.
So I think just examples of that, like how from film advertising and marketing and creative has moved away for brands from films to leading up to embedding themselves in music videos, having things grow on social media, and that's the modern day advertising, right? Like, so brands can actually entertain people, so that's important these days, right? And another point is in the next slide, brands can also make a difference in someone's life. Here, I think just with that example that I'm going to give after this, how a brand or a drying product can use advertising, marketing, or creativity and give value in someone's life. I think that's so important when we think how we want to move away from just the films and stuff like that. Let's play the next video. Right.
A simple battery can help light up the dark. In today's world, where conventional batteries are quickly becoming obsolete, Everready set out to do what batteries have never done: bring families closer together. Everready was inspired by wayang kulit, the traditional art of using light and shadows to pass down stories to the next generation. The result was Sang Kancil Cari Cahaya, a bedtime storybook featuring the iconic Malaysian mouse deer. Each page would come alive at the flick of a flashlight switch, and a child's imagination would light up with it, and each moment shared between parent and child is priceless. Such is the tale of how Everready revived the charm of olden day storytelling with an original bedtime story, with a little help from a little battery.
Piece, to sell torchlight. Who would buy torchlights, right? But we turn torchlights into something else, a children's storybook. You buy together. It could be a playtime for you. So that's interesting, right? So we move to the slide, right? A little quote from the guy I currently work with, Gary Vee. The last thing he always tells us, like, we don't want to build an advertising agency. We want to build an agency for the now, of create things for brands that people want to watch, like I keep harping on, right? And his quote here is like, brand storytelling is not about pushing advertising, it's about bringing value. So what's the value that you bring as a brand? I think that's so important. When we think, that's the modern day advertising, right? The purpose and the value that you bring. And we've moved to the next slide. Another crazy guy that I used to work with, Nadim. He was the founder of Gojek, and he's now the Minister of Education in Indonesia. His thing when he hired me on the first day is like, okay, we've got a good tech, we've got a good app, right? But can you make people love our brand? Can you make us cool? Because we don't have that. In that 2 years, we've moved away from just doing normal advertising. I think we moved away to create things that make people talk about the brand, make the brand the talk of town, building this cool factor to the brand. There's so much that we did for Gojek, and that's what I think a lot of creative thinkers, marketers, and people who know how to move brands in those direction. I think that's how uh, we are going to move advertising and change the way things are, right? So moving to the next slide, we should kill advertising, right? But which kind of advertising? We should kill advertising that is the old school kind of advertising, things that are just pushing for the sake of pushing, like things that people don't, the consumers don't even want to watch that, right? So but creativity is still important for brands. And in the next slide, the last slide, right, brands will never die, right? I always believe that brands will be the new religion. It's a way of life, for a lot of us. You believe so much in brands like Nike, you believe so much in brands like Tesla, you believe so much in all these different brands that it becomes a part of your life. So those brands need to give value, and we as creatives need to put some soul, put some coolness, and bring that value to consumers who want to believe in those brands. I think that's the power of creativity and the way we're going to move advertising from the old school advertising to the new school advertising. And yeah, that's my little spiel for today. Also, shout out to a lot of people who are commenting. Thanks, Zaini, long time no see. Divya, yes, Mr. Fauzan is a legend. I've known him from MMU days, and also, yeah, good to see some of y'all here. But yeah, all good. Christina, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vijay. That was very insightful. I think just a quick recap of the talk and all that. Very interesting things that come to mind was how you were talking about snackable content and creating the agency for now. So these are things that we should really think about moving forward. especially with our department, especially with like people going into the advertising field. Um, yeah, we'll bookmark it and we'll talk about it at the end of the session. But without any further ado, let's move on to our next speaker, our internal speaker, Dr. Fauzan Mustafa, to give his thoughts before we conclude. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Fauzan.
Thank you very much, moderator Miss Christina, our beloved industrial panel, Mr. Vijay. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. The slide, please. Advertising is dead. I also have the same kind of impact on me. I mean, the immediate question is that even a question? Yeah, stunning. Such a big statement on a huge and long tradition industry. Yeah, and but the thing is that that impact was not felt. Yeah, as I've been given this topic. It was decades ago. Yeah, 2002. Sergio Zeman, yeah, has already come out with a book, The End of Advertising as We Know It. Yeah. Advertising is Dead, yeah, by Tom Himes, 2006. The end of advertising, why it had to die, yeah. And the creative resurrections to come, by Andrew Essex, 2017, and the list go on and on. Yeah. Well, basically, the general advertising practices claim we have taken for granted captive audience for decades long, and it leads to laziness and overabundance, and frankly annoying. Though it is not supposed to be a sweeping statement. Yeah, there's a lot of successful mega brands, yeah, which in position their brands right at the very beginning. Yeah. Apple, Nike, so on and so forth. Yeah, which comes to the point, yeah, of Mr. Vijay that we listened just now, that we can actually make a test on this. Yeah, how many ads that we've seen as an audience trying to entertain ourselves, yeah? Not as an advertising person, to do research, for instance. And now the audience has been equipped with remote control and skip buttons and ad blockers and paying subscriptions premium, yeah, to avoid ads, and we know what naturally can happen. Okay, we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, by definition, it's the principal concepts, the philosophy, the wisdom of advertising encompass a very, very wide parameter. Right? The core fundamental advertising covers long-term image projection and short-term tactical promotional program and strategy, grooming brand from identity attribution to brand differentiation to brand preference, yeah, in a form of integrated brand communication, yeah, which fundamentally glued, yeah, with some kind of big ideas, yeah, to groom, some kind of very competitive sort of the X factors and program. Yeah? So what's gone wrong? What these authors, scholars, experts were saying. Yeah? Well, after taking consideration on the real deal of the argument, it's not at all about collapsing the entire knowledge and wisdoms of advertising. What extremely lacking is the interpretation in manifesting the wisdom and other factor, of course, that we will discuss later. And the thing is that it has severe impact to the advertising practitioner, advertisers, and also advertising agencies. But the thing is that the logic is simple. Yeah, we cannot be what we want by remaining what we are. The argument on the end of advertising is definitely a wake-up call. Yeah? But if it makes us so feel so sad, please understand that every end marks a new beginning. Yeah. What happened when we end our primary school, for instance? Yeah, it marks the beginning of secondary school life. What happened after the end of 20th century? The beginning of 21st century. But the point is that we cannot run the secondary school life with primary school mindset and strategy because it's simply much, much more complex. As much as running the 21st century with 20 years mindset and strategy. Next slide, please. Okay, the premises, previous slide, please. The premises of the idea that advertising is dying or dead. Yeah. Number one is the next, please. The change of generations as target audience. When I work in advertising agencies in the 90s, yeah, my target audience are Generation X and baby boomers. I basically Generation X. My father is Generation baby boomers, which is entirely different gen and characteristic. Currently, we are facing Generation Y, yeah, born 81 to 96, uh, constitute 40%, yeah, plus Generation Z, born 1997 to 2012, which constitute 29% of, and both group combined together constitute 69% of Malaysian population. This group dominated the workforce and at the same time dominated the market. And just in case we have a skeptical on the 69 percentage, yeah, for Gen Y and Z, it's actually, I think it's fair because considering the large percentage of baby boomers has passed away and a very large percentage of course, yeah, the Alpha Gen is not born yet. So we look at the profile of the Gen Y and Z. Highest percentage of internet population, electronically engaged generation, heavily dependent on smartphones and social media, spending on average of 8 hours a day on the internet, well educated, empowered, entrepreneurial. Okay, I quote. Although millennial is embracer to cutting edge technology, they do not translate into brand loyalty unless there's incremental values in items. What does it mean? It means that by default, we are facing target audience that always sit on the fence, which the audience that avoid making early choice and making purchase decision only after well informed. Generation X, Y, and Z is calculative. Yeah, I mean, in the context of general election, this generation X, Y and Z is slightly could be a last minute swing voters. Yeah, it means advertising today has got to be tactical, highly tactical. It means advertising today has got to treat consumers seriously and frequently. It means advertising today has to anticipate and capitalize on various form of digital media that's close to them. Next, please. Second is the media fragmentation. 20 years, 25 years ago, when I was in the agency, I think more than that. Yeah. Advertisers can reach 80% of our population in just TV, 3 TV commercials. Yeah. And the audience is fragmented across multiple channels and outlets. People watch television with, not only the media is fragmented, yeah, the audience is also audience fragmentation. Also it's a phenomenon where you watch TV with one eye and while reading news story in their tablets and browse web at work and radio with radio playing at the background and hop between the social media apps on the smartphone. Next, please. The next factor is you know, traditional media like advertising. Of course, we have touched that. The the template type, which might not necessarily sweeping statement, but we're talking about a pattern, phenomenon, of abundant and annoying. Next slide, please. The consumer perceptions that advertising is annoying that come to where's the VJ point that he has already elaborated very good. Slide next, please. Then next slide, please. The advertisers has choice, and alternative advertising is more economic, and this lead to amateur, non educated advertising person, that lead I mean go straight to the YouTube, YouTuber, content creators, and which has basically not necessarily have formal advertising education, for instance, which is is an alternative. I said that this is an alternative. Next, please. So the game advertising of today has become more dynamic. Has been forced to be more dynamic and more tactical, and therefore we come across words like guerrilla advertising, stealth advertising, ambush advertising, buzz, viral, grassroots, wildfire, ambience advertising, and so on and so forth. Next. So this is a brighter side, that lead to if we try to simplify some of the fundamental issues as a four driving force, to get closer to the audience. Next, please. One is the proximity, which means getting closer. I mean, from the rejection, of ad to getting closer to them, trying to follow the footsteps of the consumer, and to get close as close as possible to the point of purchase, and the reverse tactic, stimulating consumer to come to the world of the brand. Previous, please. So in order to promote the brand, of a movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, so it's out of nothing, Johnny Depp, with full Jack Sparrow, costume, come to the hospital, children's hospital, in America, and try to entertain them, with full character, Then we have we have a very popular game of Pirate of the Caribbean, it's a game board or apps, for instance. Next, please. The second point is the unpredictability. Brand should fit in with the unpredictability of behavior of consumer, which catch consumer off guard from the preconceived ideas, which means first of all it comes to, I think it's the entire notion of the solution, then to propose that advertising does not come to people in the form of advertising phase anymore, to avoid that preconceived ideas, and unpredictable use of media ideas, which lead to the aha effect. We have a sample of also Pepsi Max, in the context of mixed reality. Next. the exclusivity, yeah, going where the competition is not. Yeah, so to remain exclusive, yeah, to be alone, quote unquote, with consumers without competing message from other advertisers, which means sometimes you have to create, yeah, your own space. Yeah, avian, for instance, yeah, having the brand recall in the swimming pool, yeah, attended by the swimmers. Yeah, you have the mixed reality, or net geo on the tactical ground. Yeah, having to manifest the think again the big ideas of net geo. Yeah, in the context of human experience with natures and animals. Yeah, and we have a toilet advertisement. Yeah, for instance, at the place where there is no others, so you create that undivided attention and try to start to develop, the engagement and brand experience, yeah, between the brand and the audience. So and the fourth one is the the refers to what we normally use, yeah, the term, yeah, we want visibility, but this thing is invisibility. What does it mean? Next, please. Invisibility, yeah, it means the contrary to the traditional approach of face to face, yeah, where billboards and posters are stationed, this does not move. It play hide and seek, yeah. Again, it does not feel and it does not look like and feel like advertising. So it's matching the characteristics of guerrilla warfare, yeah? And it's moving the brand into the background. Yeah? In the context of Jurassic Park, you can see, the first of all, yeah, the product. It's not a product placement. There's a difference between product placement and brand branded content. Yeah, branded content is the brand is actually seemingly smoothly took into the journey of the storytelling. Yeah, but the placement is a product placement. Yeah, is the practice of if you look at the top the Coke. Yeah, it's just an insertion. Yeah, of the brand, yeah, into the scene. Yeah. Next, I mean it's just a context. Huh? Okay. By the way, if the invisibility factor is not necessarily landed on the branded content or product placement, yeah? But this is just an example. Yeah. The Aston Martin, yeah, in James Bond, no Time to Die, for instance, try to manifest the ultimate, automotive experience, yeah, so far. Next, I think we end, yeah. Say for instance, this is another example of very excellent, yeah, branded content, yeah. The Lego Movie has made, yeah, I mean, I think it has a four series, yeah, and the last one was 468.1 million USD, yeah. So the ideal is in this situation is that we take off from the point where advertisement is annoying and rejected completely up until in this context, yeah, audience has to pay to experience advertising. Okay, that amount of share. With that is the amount of shift we're talking about. I think I leave it there. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mr. Siten.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Fauzan. Very insightful talk. I think covering everything from generational gaps, and all the the different, like how advertising used to work and how advertising works now. Yeah, so I mean, I think I could. Sorry, hold on, yeah. Right. So I think we can conclude that the similarities between Mr. VJ's talk and Dr. Fauzan's talk is that there's everything from advertising is actually experiential, right? And it looks like that's what it's moving into. So it's not necessarily that it's dead. It's just that we have to take into consideration that, you know, the audience wants to experience it. But then again, when you take into consideration Mr. VJ's experience and all that, you can see that the emphasis is on snackable content. It's on things that are easily digested, because if it's anything that the pandemic has taught us, is that we want, you know, lots of content very fast, and it's birthed this new generation of a very now I want it now kind of generation. But where does that leave us in terms of advertising, and how do we inject emotion, or how do we communicate, how do we create a good experience with advertising if the attention span is, you know, narrowing down, and how do we inject that kind of ecosystem, if you will, in the campaigns. Right. So lots to ponder. There are a few questions that I would like to direct to our speakers. Let's start with Mr. VJ. So one of the questions is what we just concluded just now. So from your experience, what would you say is, I wouldn't say a surefire way, but this is more of like advice to our students and advice to those who are pursuing a career in advertising. How would one position themselves in a way that it is beneficial to today's world of advertising in terms of their career? What should be the main focus in terms of their specialization?
Right. So, like I said just now, because content social is so huge, so if you want to get an upper hand compared to 100 or 1,000 or millions other graduates out there, definitely, if you can shoot, edit, do motion, multi-talented, hyper creatives, like hyper skilled creatives are definitely more valued than the old school of, oh, I can only do art direction, I can only design, or I will only write copy. I think creatives that we hire now, especially in Media, they're super mad talented. They can shoot, they can edit, they can write, they can create videos, they can create music, they can sing, they can play different instruments. I think just like I said, right, hyper creative. I think that's so important. One, the other one, like something that we always look for also is that positive, like you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the right positive attitude, that's tough as well. So we always look for people who are like, okay, let's do this, we got this, like the energy is so important. um, I, I think it's so important for us, or especially me when I hire someone like that as well. So I think if you've got that too, from your knowledge and your skills to do all those different things, your eagerness and your positive attitude to do, and the energy to do all kind of things, because the industry can be quite tiring, and it's quite true. It can be quite crazy with the feedbacks that we get. um, so the positivity perseveres and beats all of that, right? So that's important. Yeah, for me, that too is super key lah.
All right, thank you. Okay, and the second question is directed to both Mr. Vijay and Dr. Fauzan. This is my own personal observation. It is quite difficult to preserve authenticity when it comes to advertising. And what has happened over the years, even before the pandemic, was that in advertising there seems to be a formula right? So if you would want to create a happy advertisement, you would have a formula for it. If you wanted a sad one, you would have a formula for it. And I feel that the longer that we consume this content, um, it tends to lack authenticity. But good ads seem to portray that good sense of authenticity, meaning we believe in it. And just like how Dr. Fauzan said in his talks, how you subscribe to the experience of it all, just like things like the Pirates of the Caribbean and the Lego Movie and all that. So, what would be your thoughts and your take on um, how to preserve that authenticity while still working within the template of emotions when it comes to building advertising campaigns?
Dr. Fazan, maybe you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I think the fundamental approach is clear. Yeah, both the emotions and the entire strategy and execution, yeah, has got to answer the question. Yeah, what is the objective of the advertising? When you have the unique question, you derive to a unique answer, right? So and the unique selling proposition is meant to be different in the first place. So you take off from the point of different. You carefully select. It's actually backed up by fundamentally uh, very very you know uh, large parameters of advertising research. Yeah. So when you has determined that point, that different point, that differentiate you, and compete and beat the rest of other competitors, that itself is actually a point of difference. So the authenticity, I think, come together as you develop, as you answer that questions.
Cool. I'll just jump into this and just add on, right? When you do advertising, um, imagine the brand that you're advertising is a person as well. And as a person, if you're going to communicate to someone else, if you're trying to talk to someone else, the last thing or the most important thing is to be super authentic. Like who would trust someone who's like, hey, buy this, or like, like you've got to be authentic to connect with someone. So that's so important. But another point to that, other than authenticity, right? I think with advertising, when you're talking about formulas and all that, I feel like a lot of advertising folks have gone down and tried to be very Western, and we've lost a lot of culture in between. When you look at the older commercials, like when Yasmin used to do, those films were full of culture and full of there's some Malaysianness about it. Along the way, we've become very Western, and everybody wants to do this, and everybody wants to be on Netflix, but we forget our culture along the way. I think our culture is and our stories that we have in our backyard is so interesting, and it's not being told to the world, but instead we're trying to move and become too Western. I think that's sad. So I think as a Malaysian if you want to get into the marketing, creative, advertising, branding scene, there's so much stories, so much culture, so much uniqueness about Malaysia that we're not showing to the world, and we should do that a lot more rather than being more Western and more modern for the sake of being that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Definitely, we are guilty in our own sense of using westernization and modernism synonymously with each other when actually we should be embracing our cultures. We do see a lot of advertising going more towards our advertising going more towards the Western culture when yeah we do have um, our own rich cultures, our own rich traditions, and all that. And surprisingly enough, when local advertisements are done involving our culture, those seem to work the best. So I think that really answered our question on how to preserve the authenticity because at the end of the day, it's just hitting home and seeing imagery that we are used to and being able to connect with rather than seeing imagery from over the pond. And although it being nice, it's not something that we can relate to. And yeah, so that's a very good point. Thank you, Mr. Vijay. Thank you, Dr. Fauzan. Right. So before we conclude and say our thanks, I would like to ask if Mr. Vijay or Dr. Fauzan have any closing statements or closing words before we give our thanks? If you do, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just quickly jump in and say, like, advertising and the marketing scene can be quite tough, but it is also really fun. People pay us money, and I'll always feel like I'm so lucky being in this industry on this career, because people pay us money to have fun, to do crazy stuff, to tell stories, to bring values to brands, and to bring values to consumers as a brand, and just make things cool things happen, right? So I think it's a fun industry, but you need to be one. The energy needs to be there. You need to persevere, always think positive. At the same time, find your uniqueness in this industry. Like, be good at a lot of different things, be new, be always in tune with trends. I think those things are so important because things move so fast these days. Like, you got to be making TikTok videos, you got to be doing this. Like, I'm an old person, right? And but I'm still interested in those things. So you have to be as well to move on with times. But yeah, that's my little advice now.
Okay, thank you. From my point of view, I think in the 4As, Association Accredited Advertising Agents of Malaysia, has rebrand Malaysian advertising industry as a creative industry instead of, yeah, remaining as advertising industry. The term is used widespread in their communication to stimulate people awareness on the shift, yeah, of the paradigm. Yeah. And in 2018, yeah, I mean, we cannot use the measures during the pandemic. Yeah, so it's everything down. Yeah, the total advertising market values in Malaysia was estimated around, about 1 billion US dollar. Yeah, and was projected to increase, to $5 billion dollar US in 2024. So the market is already there, but the character has different. It's different. The thing is that it's not because advertising does not come to us in the form of advertising face anymore. Yeah, people cannot recognize it as an advertising anymore. Yeah, we cannot say it's not advertising. It's still advertising at its own. Yeah, and the fundamental. Yeah. So to conclude, I think advertising is not going to die. Yeah, it is a process of purification of advertising. Yeah, what dies is the old form of advertising practices and practitioner that does not embrace the change. Thank you so much.
Right. So, yeah, that answers the question. So, is advertising dead? We don't think so, but it is hopefully going to go through its renaissance in its own way. And I'm really thankful for having this opportunity to talk to Mr. Vijay and Dr. Fauzan. I think we got a good two sides to, from someone who's out in the industry and someone who is also in the industry but also teaching at the same time. So it's a good mix of both. We're talking about the traditional practices, we're talking about the way that it's positioned in the future now. Yeah, so there's a lot to take away from this. I hope that this talk provides a lot of insight for those who are planning to pursue a career in advertising, or for those who are already in their careers in advertising. Maybe this was a refresh in terms of, like what we talked about just now, the generational gap, experiential advertising, and also how to preserve authenticity by embracing our local culture rather than moving away from it just on the terms of like modernization, when actually we can fully modernize ourselves by embracing our culture. So yes, I would like to say thank you again to our speakers. Very great talk. And we can conclude this seminar. So I would like to say thank you to the speakers and the organizer of this seminar, the Industrial Collaborators and Engagement Center, ICEC, under the Research, Industrial Collaboration and Engagement, also known as RICE division, co-organized by the Faculty of Creative Multimedia. And my thanks to MMU Studio, Strategic Marketing Department under Strategic Marketing, Admission and Recruitment, also known as the SMART division, and the technical support team for making sure all of our slides come out and everyone's talking at the right time, for making this insightful seminar conducted very smoothly. And thank you everyone for coming. And last but not least, thank you for the audience. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this session. So thank you, take care, stay safe, and that is all from us.